Ottawa 911.
Hi, I need an officer here immediately.
Okay, to where?
Bay Point Apartments.
Okay, what's going on?
My son won't stop breathing.
He won't stop what?
Breathing?
He won't stop breathing?
Right.
My son won't stop breathing. That is the sentence a mother said to a 911 dispatcher at 4:19 in the morning from an apartment in Holland, Michigan. Not, "I hurt my son." Not, "I need help." A riddle dressed up as an emergency call from a woman who already knew the answer. Here's the image that should stay with you for the rest of this video. A bedroom window. For months, a woman sat at that window for 8 hours a day, watching the street, convinced federal agents were parked outside. That window is the whole case. On one side of the glass was a real apartment complex, real neighbors, a real 17-year-old boy asleep down the hall. On the other side was a world that existed only inside her phone. And she chose to live in that second world right up until the night it killed her son. Before we go deeper into what the records actually show, make sure you're subscribed to the Crime Infinity, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. The woman's name is Katie Lee. Her son's name was Austin Dean Pickart. For most of his life, Austin was in an emotionally impaired classroom, the result of a brain injury.
Tell me about that.
He's got a brain injury and has been in the emotionally impaired classroom since preschool, actually, but kindergarten officially. He went there for 8 years, and I have to go get him all the time. It was a big deal. And I am also disabled now. I can't drive, and I can't take care of him.
Okay.
I've reached out to every doctor I know.
Okay.
And we're just tired. We get tired. He was tired. He was tired. He asked me, he made me promise not to let him wake up after he started. And then once I started, I couldn't stop. And it went the trauma had on it.
Katie was his sole caregiver, a single parent who was also, by her own account, disabled, unable to drive, increasingly unable to leave the apartment at all. On paper, this was a family that had been asking for help for years. In practice, it became two people slowly sealing themselves inside four walls, with a phone as their only window to the outside world. She would later admit it herself, in her own words, in open court. "I fell so deeply into an echo chamber that we were living in a different reality." Sit with that phrase for a second. Not, "I believed something false." She said they were living in a different reality. Two people sharing one delusion inside one apartment, with nowhere left to go. Court records lay out how far that delusion traveled. She believed the FBI was monitoring her from across the street. She checked electrical outlets for hidden microphones. She became convinced the government was rounding up the mentally ill and sending them to what she called wellness farms, a rumor she'd absorbed from online video content. And that belief curdled fast into a fear of concentration camps.
Anybody would ever love or understand the way I could. Starting in 2020, my already struggling mental and physical health declined to the point we are no longer leaving the house except for doctor's appointments. After 5 years of not being out in the world, it became really hard for me to tell what was real and not real, with the algorithms on my phone being nothing but the world is ending content. I fell so deeply into an echo chamber that we were living in a different reality, and it was a terrible one. I had managed to keep my head above water, but barely. In November of 2024 is when I drowned. My mental health rapidly declined. I began to think the FBI was watching me from across the street. I would spend 8 hours a day watching out of my bedroom window, trying to decode people's behavior and prove myself right. I was checking all my outlet for bugs And when I couldn't find any, I thought they were using mind-reading drones. My brain was broken. Then came what I think was a jumping off point. I started seeing videos about the government sending mentally ill to what they call wellness farms, and my brain broke. It very quickly turned into fear that they were coming to get us at any moment and taking us to concentration camps.
This wasn't a passing bad night. This was a 5-year decline, documented in her own allocution that started around 2020 and ended in her son's blood. Here is the moral center of this story, and we're going to come back to it twice more before we're done. A mother's love became the weapon that killed her son. On February 21st, 2025, the day before Austin's 18th birthday, Katie Lee called 911 herself. Think about the strangeness of that decision for a moment. If concealment were the goal, you don't dial for help. She got on the phone and told a dispatcher her son won't stop breathing. A description so evasive, it took the dispatcher several tries just to understand what had actually happened. When asked directly if weapons were involved, she answered, I used a knife.
Okay, to where?
Bay Point Apartments.
What's going on?
My son won't stop breathing.
He won't stop what?
Breathing?
He won't stop breathing?
Right.
Okay. Like, is he, like, breathing too fast?
We were going to leave yesterday, and it got way out of hand. And I couldn't get him to stop breathing like he made me promise to do.
Okay, so is he asking you to, like, kill him? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing for a while. And I can't get him to stop breathing.
Okay, hang on one second here. How old is your son?
He is going to be 18 tomorrow, but he didn't want to turn 18.
Is your son awake?
No, he's just not stopping breathing.
Okay, can you get in a separate room from him?
I am.
Okay. Are there any weapons in the home?
I used a knife.
Okay, where did you cut him?
It got out of hand.
Okay, what happened?
It was supposed to just be easy, and he was just going to go to sleep. And it didn't work. And he kept telling me not to let him go to the hospital.
Okay. Where's the knife now?
It's in the room.
With him or with you?
With him.
Okay. Okay, and he's been breathing.
My family, I love them.
Okay, no, hang on, Katie. I got a couple more questions. So,
but either way, I'm not going to see them.
Well, Katie, we're going to talk.
Here, I'm coming
You
in.
need to puke?
The police officers are here.
Okay, yep, I want you to keep your phone, only your phone in your hand, Katie. Nothing else. Katie.
She's only got the phone in her hand, currently vomiting. She did say the
Hi, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it. Drop the knife now.
Just drop the knife, man. Just drop the knife. Stop.
Hey, I gotta bail down. I gotta bail down.
Just drop the knife. Just drop the knife. That's all you need to do. Please. Please, just listen to me. I need you to just drop the knife. Please, for the love of God. Please. There you go. There you go. Thank you so much. Please, just come out to the hallway. Man, stop.
Taser the place. Ma'am, do not move. Do not move. You're gonna get tased again, okay? You're fine, okay?
I can't.
Do not move.
When asked if her son was awake, she said, "No, he's just not stopping breathing." She wasn't describing an accident. She was narrating a plan that had gone wrong in its execution, right down to the detail that Austin had asked her in advance not to let anyone take him to a hospital. Officers arrived to find her holding only her phone, as instructed. Within moments, according to responding officers' own radio traffic, she produced a knife and had to be tased before she could be taken into custody. Austin was found inside, and paramedics determined the injuries were not survivable. Now here's the question this story keeps circling back to, the one that turns a headline into something closer to a slow-motion thriller. At what exact point does a mother stop trying to save her child and start believing that killing him is the same thing as saving him? Because according to the plea transcript, there was no fight that night, no argument. In Katie Lee's own words to detectives, this was, he wanted to do it as much as I did.
Is he keeping up with his schoolwork?
When he was, not always, they would put him in a cement room most of the time. They have those back rooms.
Okay.
And he would sit in that cement room for most of the day, a lot of the time.
Due to?
His behavioral outbursts.
Okay.
And then when COVID hit, he got expelled right before it. So we just hunkered down and
Okay.
did what I could to keep him alive.
I know that there had been a history of arguments between you guys, but on these days that we're talking about, you guys, there was no argument or anything that you had mentioned.
This was, he wanted to do it as much as I did.
Okay. Okay.
Whether that claim is true is not something a documentary can verify. What can be verified is what the prosecution put on the record at her plea hearing, question by question, in the flat, procedural language that makes horror sound almost administrative. Under oath, Katie Lee confirmed that she administered a sedative to her son.
Is it true that on or about February 21 of 2025, you were in Holland City, Ottawa County, Michigan?
Yes.
Okay. And you are the mother of Austin, correct?
I am.
And on that date, he was 17 years old, a minor?
Yes.
And did you administer a drug or a sedative to him?
I did.
As a result of administering that drug or sedative to him, was he unable to have control over his body?
He was.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
So you administered a drug and thereby he no longer had physical control of his body, is that true?
True.
And then you exercised physical control over his body, is that fair to say?
Yes.
And while you had him under your control, did you intentionally inflict severe mental pain or anguish on him?
Yes.
And did you administer a mind-altering substance to him?
Yes.
And that was done deliberately?
Yes.
And by the administering of that mind-altering drug, did that disrupt his sense of personality, his senses or personality?
Yes.
You then, is it true that while he was under your control and unconscious that you then had a knife, is that true?
Yes.
And did you cut his arm on at least 2 occasions?
Yes.
And then did you also use that knife to slice his throat?
Yes.
As a result of you slicing his throat, did that result in his death?
Yes.
January 19th, 2020.
That the sedative left him unable to control his body. That while he was under her control, she intentionally inflicted severe mental anguish on him that she cut his arm on at least 2 separate occasions, and that she then used the same knife to cut his throat, which caused his death. Those aren't a documentarian's words. Those are the words a judge required her to confirm, one at a time, before accepting her guilty plea to second-degree murder. In October 2025, that plea allowed prosecutors to drop the original first-degree murder charge, the one that would have carried an automatic life sentence. In exchange, Katie Lee agreed to a sentencing range of 60 to 90 years, with a mandatory minimum she must serve before any parole board will even consider her case. Do the arithmetic on that number. She will be older than 100 before parole is a legal possibility. In every practical sense, this was a life sentence negotiated to look like something else on paper. On January 19, 2026, she stood in front of the same courtroom for sentencing and was given the chance every defendant in Michigan is entitled to, the right of allocution, to speak before the judge rules.
How does someone start something so important when words can only convey so much? I decided on where it means the most to me. My love for Austin. I love him with all that I am. It's endless and my heart is broken. It was just us for 18 years, and through it all, he's my baby, my rock, and my purpose. I fought as hard as I knew how for him to be included. There was never supposed to be a world where I am in it, but he is not, and I am so lost without him. I've thought about writing the statement for a year now, and all words fall short.
She apologized by name to the officers who found her holding the knife, to the detectives left with unanswered questions, to the hospital staff she'd been so angry with, despite what she called them saving her life. And she offered the closest thing this case has to a thesis statement. Being suicidal is really good at that. Good, in her words, at blinding a person to how much pain they're about to cause everyone who loves them. She also did something almost no defendant does in open court. She blamed the algorithm.
The internet made me do it. During her allocution, Katie Lee stood in front of a judge and explicitly blamed her phone for warping her grip on reality. It's the kind of statement that, on its face, sounds almost laughable. A grown woman pointing the finger at an app. But strip away the headline value of the quote, and there's actually a real, well-documented concept underneath it. Researchers, legal scholars, and critics of big tech have a name for it: algorithmic radicalization. The idea is simple. Recommendation systems are designed to keep users watching, and the longer someone engages with conspiratorial, fear-based, or apocalyptic content, the more of it the platform feeds them. Over time, that creates a feedback loop, a closed circuit, a version of reality hand-curated by an algorithm that bears less and less resemblance to the world outside the screen. And this isn't a new idea either. Back in the 1970s, media researcher George Gerbner coined the term mean world syndrome, describing how heavy exposure to violent or threatening media can convince viewers the world is far more dangerous than it actually is. He was talking about television. Today, the same phenomenon is running on autoplay, 24 hours a day in everyone's pocket. None of that excuses what Katie Lee did, and because she pleaded guilty, the internet made me do it was never going to fly as a courtroom defense in any traditional sense. But it does help explain how someone with no prior history of violence could sit alone in an apartment, scroll for hours on end, and become so detached from reality that she ended the life of her own son. Katie Lee will spend the next several decades in a Michigan prison, and somewhere in the quiet of a cell, without the phone, without the feed, without the constant stream of doom that helped get her there, she'll have plenty of time to reckon with what was real and what wasn't.
Not as a legal defense. She had already pleaded guilty, so there was no verdict left to influence. But as an explanation. 5 years without leaving the apartment except for doctor's visits. An unbroken diet of what she called the world is ending content, engineered by design to keep her watching. Researchers have a term for what she was describing, and it predates smartphones entirely. Media scholar George Gerbner called it mean world syndrome
back in the 1970s. The theory that heavy exposure to threatening content convinces a person the world is far more dangerous than it actually is. Gerbner was writing about television. Katie Lee lived out a modern, accelerated version of it, alone, in a bedroom, with a feed that never had to sleep and never had to stop. None of that erases what the plea transcript documents. A mother's love became the weapon that killed her son. Twice now, and here's the third time, because it belongs at the end of this story as much as the beginning. Love did not stop what happened in that apartment. It's what she used to justify it to herself, right up until the moment a knife was in her hand and her son could no longer object. The judge sentenced her within the agreed range.
Your comments are very appropriate. You recognize photographs or images of what must have been in the horrific scene, because in reviewing just the pre-sentence investigation report, just reading it and narrative was difficult, because it's horrific, and frankly, the acts that you committed on that day were nothing less than pure evil. It was the sentence of this court on counts 1 and 3. They returned over to the Michigan Department of Corrections for a minimum of 720 months. That's 60 years, and a maximum of 1,080 months. That's 90 years. You credit for 332 days. As pertains to count 2, the resisting and obstructing police officer charge is the sentence of this court returned over to the MDOC for a minimum of 16 months and a maximum of 24 months. You credit for 332 days as well. By law, these must be concurrent. Which they say cause crime victim costs and VA fees that are required by statute. These are final sentences, and you file an application before the court regarding the conviction sentence. If you are unable to hire an attorney, this court will appoint them to represent your public expense. You need to fill out the paper. You can provide it when you turn it within 42 days.
Thank you, Your Honor. A minimum of 720 months, 60 years, up to a maximum of 180 months beyond that on the murder count, with credit for time already served, plus a concurrent term for resisting the officers who found her. Final, on the record, appealable in name only. If you want to go past what we've covered here, the plea transcript and the sentencing hearing from People of the State of Michigan v. Katie Austin Lee, case number 254-7529-FC, are part of the public court record in Ottawa County. Read the allocution in full. Then ask yourself the question this case never fully answers, and tell us your answer in the comments. Was Katie Lee a mother destroyed by an untreated mental health crisis, or a caregiver who let 5 years of isolation convince her that ending her son's life was an act of mercy? Where you draw that line says as much about the case as it does about the algorithm she blamed for it. If this case affected you like it did us, hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, subscribe to the Crime Infinity, and turn on notifications, because we're back every week, following the evidence wherever it leads.